Most people think fat burning happens in real time. They believe that the calories you restrict today translate into immediate fat loss, but metabolically, this is incomplete. Your body does not decide whether to burn visceral fat based on what you eat in a single meal or whether you exercise that afternoon. It decides based on the hormonal blueprint you built throughout the entire day. The hours between sunrise and sunset are not just preparation for sleep, they are the construction phase for your overnight metabolic state. If you wake up tomorrow morning and your belly looks exactly the same as it did today, it's because the signals you sent your body during the daytime told it to preserve fat, not release it. Today, we are engineering a complete daytime framework. This is not a list of tips. This is a chronological hormone optimization system designed to reprogram your metabolism so that when your head hits the pillow tonight, your body has no choice but to incinerate visceral fat while you sleep.
Your body operates on a 24-hour hormonal rhythm called the circadian clock. At the center of this rhythm is cortisol, the hormone we discussed in our evening protocol. But cortisol is not the enemy. Cortisol is the timer. When cortisol is high at the right time and low at the right time, your metabolism functions like a precision machine. The problem is that 99% of people have a broken cortisol curve. A healthy cortisol curve looks like a wave. It peaks sharply within 30 minutes of waking, giving you energy and focus. Then it gradually declines throughout the day, bottoming out by bedtime. This natural wave creates the conditions for human growth hormone to surge at night and visceral fat to oxidize while you sleep. But when your cortisol curve is flattened, when cortisol stays moderately elevated all day and doesn't drop at night, you lose the wave. You lose the metabolic contrast, and without that contrast, fat burning becomes physiologically impossible. The goal of this daytime routine is simple. Spike cortisol hard in the morning to establish the peak, then systematically lower it throughout the day to create the drop. This is not about reducing stress. This is about creating hormonal rhythm. Let's begin.
The first 30 minutes after you open your eyes is called the Cortisol Awakening Response, or CAR. This is a biological event where cortisol is supposed to spike by 50 to 75%. This spike is not optional. It is the anchor point for your entire day. If you wake up groggily, stay in dim light, and scroll on your phone for 20 minutes, you blunt the CAR. Your cortisol never peaks properly, which means it never drops properly later. You start the day hormonally flat. Here's the protocol. Within 5 minutes of waking, get direct sunlight on your face. Not through a window, not with sunglasses. Step outside. If the sun is not up yet or the weather prevents it, use a 10,000 lux light therapy lamp positioned at eye level for 10 minutes. This light exposure hits photoreceptors in your retinas that send a direct signal to the suprachiasmatic nucleus, the master clock in your brain. The signal is, it is morning. Release cortisol. Set the timer. While you are getting light, perform 2 minutes of movement. This does not need to be intense. Jumping jacks, arm circles, bodyweight squats. The point is mechanical activation. Movement tells your adrenal glands to wake up and support the cortisol spike. If you skip this step, your body interprets morning as unsafe or lethargic, and it dampens the hormonal response you need. Do not check your phone during this window. Do not open email. Do not consume information that triggers stress or decision fatigue. The CAR is automatic, but it can be hijacked by psychological stress. Give your biology 30 minutes to do its job before you introduce cognitive load. Now that cortisol is elevated, we need to manage insulin and stabilize blood sugar for the next 12 hours. The most critical meal of your entire day is not dinner, it is breakfast. And the most critical macronutrient at breakfast is not carbohydrates, it is protein. When you eat protein first thing in the morning, several things happen. First, protein stimulates glucagon, the hormone that opposes insulin and promotes fat breakdown. Second, protein activates the satiety hormones CCK and GLP-1, which reduce hunger and cravings for the rest of the day. Third, protein has the highest thermic effect of food, meaning your body burns calories just digesting it. But most importantly, protein stabilizes your blood sugar curve.
Here's the target. Consume at least 30 grams of protein within 90 minutes of waking. This can be eggs, Greek yogurt, a protein shake, leftover chicken, cottage cheese. The source does not matter. The quantity does. If you eat a carb-heavy breakfast, toast, cereal, fruit smoothies with no protein, you spike insulin immediately. Insulin drives glucose into cells, and 2 hours later, your blood sugar crashes. This crash triggers cravings, energy dips, and a secondary cortisol release to stabilize glucose. Now your cortisol curve is erratic instead of smooth. By front-loading protein, you create a metabolic buffer. Your blood sugar stays level, your energy stays consistent, and your body does not panic into fat storage mode by mid-morning. This one decision at breakfast sets the trajectory for whether your body burns fat or stores fat for the next 16 hours. Between breakfast and lunch, your job is to reinforce the circadian signal and keep your metabolism active without spiking cortisol further. This is where sunlight and NEAT come in. NEAT stands for Non-Exercise Activity Thermogenesis. This is all the movement you do outside of formal workouts: walking, standing, fidgeting, taking the stairs. Get outside again. A 10 to 20-minute walk in natural light is ideal. The sunlight exposure continues to anchor your circadian rhythm, ensuring that when evening comes, your body knows it is time to wind down. But the walk also does something else. It activates lipoprotein lipase, the enzyme responsible for pulling fat out of storage and into circulation to be burned. This is low-intensity fat oxidation. You are not depleting glycogen. You are not spiking cortisol. You are gently signaling your body to use fat as fuel. If you cannot walk outside, stand while you work. Take phone calls while pacing. Do anything to avoid prolonged sitting. Sitting for hours creates metabolic stagnation. Blood flow slows, insulin sensitivity drops, fat oxidation shuts down. The human body was not designed to be sedentary. Even small bursts of movement every 30 minutes keep your metabolism engaged and prevent the midday metabolic collapse that leads to afternoon fatigue and sugar cravings. Lunch is where most people destroy their afternoon. They eat a high-carb, low-protein meal, rice, pasta, bread, and their blood sugar skyrockets. Insulin floods the system. 90 minutes later, they crash. They reach for coffee, candy, or another snack, which restarts the insulin roller coaster. By the time evening arrives, their metabolism is in chaos, and their body is primed to store every calorie consumed at dinner as fat. The solution is lunch architecture. Build your lunch around protein and fiber, not starch. Your plate should be 40% protein, chicken, fish, tofu, 40% non-starchy vegetables, greens, peppers, broccoli, and 20% healthy fats, avocado, olive oil, nuts. If you include carbohydrates, make them low glycemic, quinoa, sweet potato, lentils, and keep the portions small. This combination does 3 things. Protein and fiber slow digestion, which prevents the insulin spike. Fats provide sustained energy without affecting blood sugar, and the absence of processed carbs means your body does not get a glucose overload that it has to manage for the next 3 hours. Your energy stays level, your focus stays sharp, and your insulin sensitivity remains intact, which is critical, because insulin sensitivity determines whether your body burns fat or stores it. One more rule: eat slowly. Take at least 20 minutes to finish your meal. Fast eating blunts satiety signals and causes you to overconsume before your brain registers fullness. Slow eating gives leptin time to rise and tell you that you have had enough. This is not about willpower. This is about giving your hormones time to communicate. This is the danger zone. For most people, cortisol is still moderately elevated in the afternoon because they have been stressed all day. They have not created the conditions for it to drop. And if cortisol stays high into the evening, it blocks melatonin, disrupts sleep, and prevents the growth hormone release that burns fat overnight.
Your job in the afternoon is to actively lower cortisol without crashing your energy. Here's how. First, avoid stimulants after 2 p.m. No more coffee, no energy drinks. Caffeine has a half-life of 5 to 6 hours, which means if you drink coffee at 3 p.m., half of it is still in your system at 9 p.m. This keeps cortisol elevated and interferes with your ability to wind down. Second, introduce a parasympathetic shift. This can be as simple as 5 minutes of nasal breathing. Sit down, close your eyes. Breathe in through your nose for 4 seconds. Breathe out through your nose for 6 seconds. Do this for 10 rounds. Nasal breathing activates the vagus nerve, the primary brake on your stress response. It tells your body that you are safe, which allows cortisol to begin its descent. Third, if possible, take a 10 to 20-minute nap between 2 and 3 p.m. This is not laziness. This is strategic. A short nap lowers cortisol, improves insulin sensitivity, and resets your focus for the rest of the day. The key is short. Anything longer than 20 minutes pushes you into deep sleep, and waking from deep sleep during the day causes grogginess and disrupts nighttime sleep. Set a timer. Lie down. Let your body reset. If napping is not an option, go outside again. A brief walk, sunlight exposure, or even standing in natural light for 5 minutes provides a cortisol buffer. Light exposure in the afternoon helps your circadian system distinguish between day and night, which strengthens the evening melatonin surge. Now we enter the final phase of the daytime protocol, setting up the overnight fat burn. The best way to do this is through strategic exercise, but not the kind most people think. You are not trying to burn maximum calories. You are trying to create metabolic space for fat oxidation during sleep. Here's the concept. Your body stores carbohydrates as glycogen in your muscles and liver. When glycogen stores are full, your body has no reason to burn fat. It will preferentially use glucose for energy. But when you deplete some of that glycogen through exercise, you create a deficit. Now, during sleep, when insulin is low and growth hormone is high, your body has to pull energy from somewhere. And if glycogen is partially depleted, it turns to visceral fat. The ideal pre-dinner workout is 20 to 30 minutes of resistance training or high-intensity intervals. Squats, push-ups, kettlebell swings, sprints, anything that uses your muscles intensely for short bursts. This is not cardio. Cardio burns calories during the workout, but does little to create the metabolic conditions for overnight fat burning. Resistance training and intervals deplete glycogen and elevate growth hormone secretion for hours after you finish. Timing matters. Exercise too late and you spike cortisol right before bed, which ruins sleep. Exercise too early and you refill glycogen at dinner, negating the effect. 5 to 7 p.m. is the sweet spot. You finish your workout, shower, and by the time you eat dinner at 7 or 8 p.m., your muscles are primed to absorb nutrients for recovery, which means the carbohydrates you eat go into muscle glycogen, not fat storage. One critical rule: do not eat immediately after your workout. Wait at least 30 minutes. This fasting window allows growth hormone and adrenaline to stay elevated, which maximizes fat oxidation post-exercise. If you drink a protein shake or eat a snack right after training, insulin spikes and shuts down the fat-burning process before it can begin. At this point, you hand off to the evening routine we discussed previously. Your cortisol curve has been optimized. It peaked in the morning, tapered through the afternoon, and by now it is low. Your blood sugar has been stable all day. Your glycogen is partially depleted. Your body is hormonally prepared to burn fat overnight. But the work is not done. The evening routine, stopping food 3 hours before bed, dimming lights, taking a hot bath, doing breath work, is what seals the process. Think of the daytime routine as building the foundation and the evening routine as constructing the roof. You need both. If you execute the daytime protocol perfectly, but then stay up late under bright lights eating carbs at 10 p.m., you sabotage everything. Here's what most people miss. Fat loss is not about one good day. It is about rhythm. Your body adapts to patterns, not events. If you do this routine once, you might feel better, but you will not see measurable fat loss. But if you repeat this structure for 7 days, 14 days, 30 days, your metabolism recalibrates, your cortisol curve sharpens, your insulin sensitivity improves, your circadian clock synchronizes, and your body stops defaulting to fat storage and starts defaulting to fat oxidation. This is not a hack. This is alignment. You are working with your biology, not against it. Every decision you make during the day, when you see light, when you eat protein, when you move, when you lower stress, sends a signal. Those signals accumulate. They tell your body whether it is safe to release fat or whether it needs to hold on. The visceral fat around your organs is not just stored energy, it is stored insurance. Your body put it there because at some point you signaled scarcity, chaos, or threat. The only way to release it is to signal the opposite: abundance, stability, and safety. That signal starts the moment you wake up and compounds with every choice you make until the moment you fall asleep. Execute this daytime routine. Anchor your cortisol in the morning, stabilize your blood sugar at every meal, move consistently without overstressing your system, taper cortisol in the afternoon, deplete glycogen before dinner, then transition into the evening protocol and let your biology do what it was designed to do: repair, restore, and burn fat while you sleep. That is how you force your body to burn visceral fat overnight, not through force, through rhythm. Thanks for watching. If this video was helpful, subscribe the channel, press like, and share with friends. I'll see you in the next one.